AI is going to be hopefully a big topic for us because there's so much changing, and it's kind of like the internet was when it started. Now AI is kind of like,
Yeah, you can be creating content and being in storytelling without using AI in some form or another, whether it's to help you visualize a story, whether it's helping you with a script, whether it's conceptualizing. I mean, if you don't jump on the bandwagon of AI, people complain about it. It's gonna replace you. I don't think it's gonna replace us.
I think it's going to change things.
Yeah.
Toast.
Finally, we made it.
Finally. All right. So we've been talking about this for a long time. We
Too long.
finally did it. And I mean, our coffee mugs are exactly how we are. Ultra creative, over the top thinking, Spielberg. Coffee. You just need a coffee
Coffee.
mug with coffee inside.
Coffee. With the name coffee.
It says coffee, so I
With the
can
name
make sure that I
coffee,
know that
so
it's
he
coffee.
knows that coffee goes in there. As in this type of cup, anything else can go in it.
But his is, I don't know.
Yeah, he's not a big Star Wars person. I am, as many of you know, R2D2 in case. Por poco me lo echo arriba. That would
Overly
not be
creative. We
good.
didn't mess up the carpet after we took a long time to pick everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been talking about doing this. We finally got around to doing it. With
Took us a
lot
little
of-
while. We had to get everything, because of course, ultra creative, as you say. So it took about a month and a half to decide what tables we were gonna use.
We're still talking about
We're
this.
still talking about the table, and we could not agree on the table.
I still don't like the
He
taste.
still doesn't like the table. We have maybe on episode 2, we'll have the other table, and we'll let the viewers decide what table goes with it.
Okay.
And then there's the opening
Yeah, the opening.
and the graphic.
So this podcast is supposed to be about content, about creation of content, about the different approaches to
Really?
content. Yeah,
That's about?
that's what it's about.
I thought it was a comedy.
No, no, it's not a comedy.
All right.
It's not a comedy. Luckily, we're not comedians, but
Yes, thank God.
but we could play one on set. So yeah, it's gonna be content. We're gonna have a bunch of different, hopefully guests that say yes to us because we have a lot of ideas. But let's see if they say yes to us. We'll talk to public relations people. We'll talk to content creators. We'll talk to strategists, marketing
Publicists,
people, publicists,
PR, yeah.
just people that used to work in television that maybe are doing media now. Just a bunch of different experts. AI is going to be hopefully a big topic for us because there's so much changing, and it's kind of like the internet was when it started, and now AI is kind of like,
Yeah, you can be creating content and being in storytelling without using AI in some form or another, whether it's to help you visualize a story, whether it's helping you with a script, whether it's conceptualizing. I mean, if you don't jump on the bandwagon of AI, people complain about it. It's gonna replace you. I don't think it's gonna replace us.
I think it's going to change things.
Yeah.
I don't. At the end of the day, AI is a tool, like any other tool. People would say, when I remember when Photoshop was starting to advance and started to do things that were a little bit more creative and a little bit more manipulative, people were like, "Oh, now you don't need to be a photographer; you just put it in Photoshop." And that's not the. Even today, you still kind of have to have good lighting, good composition. Yeah, you can throw in a prompt into AI and build a photo, but it's not the same.
Yeah,
The
same thing with
experience is not the
storytelling.
same.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a tool, and I think AI is going to replace people that don't learn AI. I think if you know AI and you learn it and you use it as a tool in your toolbox, I think it's going to be a positive thing.
Yeah, no, I agree, but also I think it's overwhelming. You go out there and you want to figure out what tools to use, depending on what you're gonna do, and then you're bombarded with 1,000 different AI tools, platforms, and you're like, which one is which? And then you try one, okay, let me try another one. So, but yeah, we're gonna tackle all those things, in subsequent episodes. But let's talk about us and how we are. At the end of the day, we're storytellers. That's why the name of the show is Storytellers. We've been telling stories visually and creatively for, we're not gonna say how many
A
years.
long
We
time.
don't-
A long time.
and we worked together for many years. So that's what we thought about, putting our brains together. You have a different approach on a project, then I have a different approach. That's why we kind of work together, well, because tell me how you approach it, and then I'll talk about how I approach it because we're very
Yeah,
different.
yeah. Again, back to the coffee mug.
Yeah.
I'm more of a meat and potatoes. I want to go first with strategy. I want to make sure that I understand what the client wants from this content. Yes, I want it to be creative. Yes, I want it to be pretty. Yes, I want it to be perfect. But at the end of the day, for me, the strategy, the communication with the client, what they expect, and make sure that I reach those expectations when we deliver their final content, video, short form, whatever it is, commercial. I want to make sure that they're happy with the outcome. And along the process, and
It's
that's where
bumpy.
that's where a little bit, because sometimes clients have ideas that are not,
That suck. Let's just put
yeah,
it bluntly.
okay, that suck.
Yeah.
And I
Or they need to be guided, or maybe they have an original, a decent idea, but then their vision of how to put it together doesn't really work. So I know you and I are different that way. That I sometimes may butt heads a little bit in a
a
very
lot of bit.
well, in a very political way. I feel like it's my responsibility of a client is hiring me and is trusting in me to deliver something for them, a great content that they come with something, and then you kind of have to like, hey, in order to achieve what you want to achieve, your goal, uh, we need to modify this, whether it's visually, whether it's in the story, whether it's in the delivery of the thing, you have to. And then sometimes, you're like, hey, if the client wants this, let them do it. But I feel like, and sometimes, yeah, it creates a little bit of conflict. But at the end of the day, I feel like when the client then finally, some listen, some don't. Then, but when they do listen and they see the final product, they're like, hey, yes, I'm glad, I bought ahead. So I'm glad I listened to them and they trusted my experience or my background. You're a little different about that.
Sometimes that is correct. Sometimes at the end, the client is happy with the way you kind of directed them. I do always kind of try to gear the client because they are hiring me as an expert. But my approach is more like, hey, look, this is your idea. This is kind of what you want the result to be. And the way you want to come to that is not necessarily, in my opinion, the best way. You're hiring me as an expert. This is the reason why I think you should do it this way. And I try to educate the client. But we're a little different is I kind of let them make the decision. I'm like, look, this is what you want. This is what I think we should do. And you brought me in because I'm the expert. What do you want to do? And you're more, we have to do it this way because your way is wrong.
He's exaggerating.
I'm not. But at the end of the day, I mean, and
Yeah,
that's
it's at the end of the day, what counts is that the product, the content,
100%.
and that the client is happy and gets the result that they want. Because at the end of the day, we're creating content for clients that they need results, whether it's sales, whether it's a larger audience online, their brand be a little more recognized and known, followers, whatever it is. But the client has to be happy
100%. And that's why we work well together because we
most of the
kind
time.
of. It's funny because I'm kind of his filter, and
Yeah.
he's my creative brain. So I have a client that calls me for a certain project. How we want to do this commercial or we want to do this video of our legacy. And after I talk to them and I kind of get them on board with using our expertise and using our company, then I read, okay, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this creatively? How are we gonna, and then boom, your brain goes in. So we have a very good mix of talent here where I'm the communicator with the client. I kind of get what they want and I feed it to you and you're kind of like my AI, my
I mean,
AI,
AI.
And your brain goes and then you
Sometimes it goes
create
way
the,
too much.
sometimes it's over the top and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, they're not going to have the money to do
Simplify. Now,
that.
a big thing that you always
So
say is let's simplify the project. Because yeah, I sometimes
Spielberg.
yeah, sometimes I want more. Then we're gonna go into budget now. I want more than the client may have budget, both budget in time and budget in money.
Yeah.
But sometimes I bite the bullet, not to say it in another way, because I believe in the product, I believe in the project, and I want to, at the end of the day, and goes back to even when I worked in news, that when I finish a project that I'm proud of, not only for the client, but that I feel like, hey, this came out to the best that we could have done it. And sometimes you do have to put those extra hours. Sometimes you budget X amount of hours, and the client only pay for X amount of hours, and then you're like, okay, I have to work additionally other resources to take this project from here to exceptional. And and yeah, sometimes you do have to bite the bullet, but
Yeah,
and sometimes you and it goes into the whole budgeted thing
yeah,
that I sometimes under budget.
yeah, a
I
hundred
I
percent.
under budget because I know the client has sometimes, and there's that debate, and maybe we can talk about that too, of do you ask a client what is your budget? I know we used to do that, but sometimes if you ask somebody, hey, how much you want to pay for this, they're always going to want to
It's
lowball you. What do you think?
it's my approach to budget has kind of like changed as I've become more successful and had more clients, and I've kind of learned through the process. Uh, the budget, I think, is a fair discussion. Some people attribute you asking about a budget as like, oh, you want to know what my number is so you can charge me exactly what I'm telling you, or not, basically. Uh, so my thought on that is, if you go to a dealership because you're looking for a car and you have a $30,000 budget, but you're at a Mercedes dealer and a Range Rover dealer, and the person asks you, what's your budget? I mean, if you're a $30,000 budget going to, you
Although
shouldn't
right,
be.
$30,000 now you can even get a bicycle
Yes,
nowadays.
exactly. You're looking at
So
the used car
you're
lot.
you're in 2002 right now.
Yes, but
I know
bottom
what you're
line
saying. Yeah.
is, you should have a general idea. And since production, if you tell me, hey, I want to produce a commercial for my new brand, I mean, I can give you maybe a $10,000 project, and it could be a $500,000 project or a $5 million project. I mean, there's so much in between. I mean, you can do a
When you get
production.
that $5 million
I
project,
haven't gotten any of
please
those.
let me know.
I haven't gotten any of those,
Okay.
Spielberg, but so I
Soon.
exactly. So I kind of approach it as, hey, do you have a ballpark, of where you want to be, or if I don't feel it from that client, I may say, hey, look, something like this, you're looking around, X amount to X amount in similar projects. It could be a little less, it could be a little more, and it could be a lot more if you really want to go over the top and hire talent and get custom music. I mean, there's so much you can add.
Yeah, the other thing that you can do, which I've done it a couple times, is if it's a project that you've been approached about that is similar to something you've already done, and I don't mean similar in the brand, but in the type of content.
Yes.
What I've done is you show them before I give up a project, a number, you show them, hey, this is project that we did for X clients, and this is along the storyline that you want to do, and then this project costs between this and this. Maybe you have something similar that was a smaller budget, and maybe less days of production, whatever the case is. And then you go, okay, something like this will run you this. So they can compare apples with apples. Because a lot of the times, yeah, clients don't know. They think they see videos out there as recorded with a phone, um, or somebody didn't really know how to put it together well. But hey, kind of looks good. And they're, oh, what do you mean this costs this much? But if you kind of go to the client and you show them, this is what we did, this is how much it will cost, they get a little bit of feeling. They have something to compare it to.
100%.
But that doesn't always happen.
Yeah. No, yeah. The other thing is, clients need to see a value in what you do, whether it's them hiring us or hiring somebody else. And I think where our approach is, we're storytellers, no pun intended. So we're not just going to film whatever you have in your ideas. We're going to help you produce it. We're going to help you make sure that the content gives you a return on investment, because at the end of the day, unless if you're just doing it because you want to do a pretty video, you want to return. You want to make sure that your message goes to the right clientele, that it's clear, and that you're going to get a return on what you're investing. Because if not, there's no point really. And the good thing is, content has changed so much that you can spend a little bit on content, and you don't necessarily need to pay ads. And that's another
Yeah,
topic
it's
for
another
another
topic.
day.
Yeah.
Where in the past you make a great commercial, you spend $20,000 to produce a commercial, and now you need to spend $50,000 to show it to people. The beauty of
Nowadays, yeah.
today with YouTube Shorts, with TikTok, with
Instagram.
Instagram, with LinkedIn, and all these channels out there is you can spend a little bit of money on content and you can leverage it for free and put it in front of your customers. And
And if
that's
it does well, then you
then if
invest.
you want to
Right.
invest because you had a video that did very well, then you can pour gasoline on it and you can
But
put
there's the
ads.
key. If you do not create good content from the beginning, it doesn't matter what you put out there, nobody's going to see it.
Yes.
So sometimes you do have to make that investment on hiring a production company or hiring storytellers or an agency, small agency, that will take your vision or your idea, your product, and come up with a creative content, and then you spend a little bit of money, but then your delivery is going to be free. If it does well, then you can
Then
go
you
ahead
could
and you go into paid advertising.
100%. But you're
But if you don't have that original great content from the beginning, is
yeah.
like a tree falls
If
in the
it
forest,
fell
there's nobody there to hear it. Is there noise?
if it fell flat on organic reach, then there's really no point. And it's the reverse of what we've always done. And we both come from television where you'd have an ad, they'd put it on, they'd spend all this money, and it didn't do anything. Now you can test stuff. Now you can actually do organic content, whether it's short form, produced by a production company, or whether it's just something you filmed on your phone, and it may do well, and it may get you a return, but you're able to test it without
Without
having to put
spending, without
without
investing.
having
But you do need to invest at least in the creation of the content, the original content. Yeah, because that would happen a lot of times before. People run out of budget, and then also on television, you couldn't. It was you just put it out there,
and
and you
create.
had no idea who's gonna watch it.
Yeah.
You're just like it's like shooting darts in the air, hopefully that you hit something. Right now, you put the content out there, and it's going to go straight to people that like that type of content. As to before, you're putting it out there and just hopefully somebody that likes your product will see it. Now it's completely different. Now on Instagram, it's not even about followers. Where your
100%.
content's not going to be seen by your followers. It's going to be seen by people that are interested in the same things that you're interested in. It.
Yes.
So that it's a win-win. That was unheard of just a couple of years ago. That we're going in that direction.
Yeah, it's incredible how you can change your, like, people that complain about social media. Oh, it's ruining our lives, and people are,
In some cases.
in some cases it may, but at the end of the day, the power that you have, and the whole thing of the algorithm, people are like, no, because the algorithm and it's feeding you trash. And like, you decide what your algorithm is.
Yeah.
And I tell anybody out there that says that their algorithm isn't showing them what they put cats
Yes.
and look for cats.
Put three
and-
videos
and
like.
3 videos of cat. I guarantee you in the morning you're gonna have a lot of cat videos because it watches you, which is kind of scary at
Yeah.
the same point. But it is what it is, and that's why it's so powerful to have good content, because it's gonna get in front of your audience that is interested in what you're selling, whether you're selling products for your skin or products for your hair or cars. I get a lot of stuff on cars, and I get stuff on cameras, of course.
I get a lot of stuff on Star Wars. I wonder why.
Star Wars, exactly. So that's the beauty of content now. It's so powerful, and what you can do organically is like never before. And I think it's only a matter of time before that goes away. And there's
Yeah,
something
and they're
new.
gonna figure out. I think the platforms, the social media platforms, are gonna realize that they can monetize this a little bit more, and we don't know if it's gonna last a year, 2 or 3, but eventually, just like Instagram got rid of they would before they would pay you by when your videos would go viral. That doesn't really happen anymore. You
Right.
get paid differently, but it's not
Yeah.
like before. Eventually, they're gonna catch up. I talked about how our approach is completely different when we tackle a brand new project. You start out with the end goal, the strategy, what does the client want? A lot of times I do that, but then I try to visualize it in a creative way. Um, my view, usually on a project, and every project we work together, I kind of start with the beginning and then I go to the end and then I work my way towards the middle. I always want to start with a hook, something where there's visual, a question, eye candy, music, something that's gonna grab the attention right away of the viewer, because we know the attention to the viewer nowadays is sometimes less than a second. And then whatever it is, whether it's a commercial, whether it's a long format, sometimes putting together a legacy video for a company or a school, I'm like, how do I hook people right at the beginning? And then what is my end? What is the end goal of this video? So I do beginning, end, and then I work my way backwards to the middle and then try, which sometimes challenging, to
the
tie it
two.
together so everything flows. I don't know if that's your same approach. A lot of the projects, we work it together,
Yeah.
but how do you approach a project that is maybe a longer format project that so it reaches the goal that you want for the client, but it grabs your attention right away?
So I start from the business standpoint. So I want to know what the client wants in return from this video. Do they want more views? Do they want feelings about their brand?
Feelings.
Feelings about their brand. So like, do they want this to influence the way people perceive their brand? Okay, because a branding video and a sale video is completely different. It can go together, but if you want, or your example of a school that basically wants to give their history, but at the same time they're asking for money. Uh, so I want to kind of approach it that way. I want to hear what is the end goal, and in some of these videos that we've done with their legacy videos, they are to inform what we've done, inform where we're going, and ask for money. So it's three things. Uh, but at the end of the day, my background, as well as yours, is a storytelling, and it's a feelings oriented. It's a human interest. Human interest. You want to be connected to the person on screen, to the story on screen, because if you don't have feelings about what you're seeing, if it's just a cold, like flat, come in and buy my car,
Yeah, nobody's gonna do it.
and
And I,
that's
and I
why.
think the news, having the news background that we had many times, we had a minute 30 to
To
tell a
tell a
story.
story.
And if you don't hook people in that short amount of time, you're gonna lose them. So it was very challenging, but I think that also trained us indirectly to be concise when you have to be concise, but also tell the story visually compelling and get your point across. So I think, but that's something that a lot of people they take it for granted, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're selling shoes, you're not selling shoes. You're selling how the shoes look, how they make the person feel, what they allow you to do. These shoes are awesome for running. They're going to make your feet comfortable. You're going to feel good in them. People are going to say, hey, nice shoes. That's what you're selling. You're selling the feeling of what you're going to feel when you're wearing these shoes. And if you approach your content from that angle, as opposed to how can I get somebody to buy my shoe? Say, how do you want them to feel when they wear the shoes they bought from you? It's a totally different approach. And I think that's what makes us a little different than the general production companies. That they're basically going to produce your idea. You want to sell shoes? Okay, let's do it. Come in, our shoes are 50% off today. Whatever. I, that approach works in some cases. I mean, you see car dealers and do it, but if you notice, for example, and the car dealers is a very interesting
Well, it
thing.
depends on the car dealer. It depends on the brand.
Yes.
Because you don't see, when you see a Mercedes or an Audi commercial, it is completely different than, not to trash a Ford or a Chevy truck, but it's the other one is the experience of driving the car. You barely sometimes even see the car.
Uh-huh.
You see the expression on the person's face. You see the hands on the road. You see the tires. You see the car, close up the car maneuvering, because it's that feeling that driving that car gives the owner,
Yeah.
as opposed to this is a truck.
And it's gonna
It's gonna
carry
get you
your
from point A to
stuff.
point B, and I can throw
Yeah.
a lot of things on
Yeah.
top of it.
One that comes to mind is Subaru. Subaru has a really interesting approach. They use a lot of dogs. And I don't know if you've seen yes, well, I'm a dog guy, so I have 3 dogs at home, but
Only
yeah, three. You have 2 kids, but I have 3 dogs.
exactly. Who
Okay.
behaves better? Well, that's a topic for another story.
Exactly. There's tons of examples of, commercials and content that makes you feel good. That ties you to their brand, that you see their brand, but it's almost like
Subliminal.
subliminal.
Yeah.
and
It's
and
the
I
feeling that you get by consuming that brand. It's not,
100%.
hey, buy us.
Yes, and Publix is one that balances that, and they're a local Florida brand. They balance it perfectly. They have their BOGO commercials, which is come in and buy because we have buy one get one free, and we have the feel good around the holidays, because everybody
The
gathers
family,
and
the
they
food.
eat
I mean, yeah.
and the last thing you see is the Publix logo, and you're like, that that's a Publix commercial
Yeah.
from the first 10 seconds because it's a feel
The
good
feeling that you get.
commercial. So, and I think when you're creating content and maybe you don't have the budget that Publix does, you can still create those feelings connected to your brand in the way you tell stories, in the way you tie it to people, and that's key, and that's what makes things shareable. Oh, this video made me feel, it was funny, it was cute, it made me feel good. It inspired me to do something that I wasn't going to do today. That's the kind of content that helps brands become powerful.
A lot of the content that sometimes we create has to do with people telling a story. I think it's very powerful. And instead of having somebody narrating a story, it's a lot more powerful to have the key players, where there's testimonials, people who have used a product or a service, give their experience, or sometimes even the owners of the company that established the company. But sometimes it's also challenging when you sit down and interview those people to get them to tell a story. Maybe their story is amazing, but getting the delivery.
Yeah.
And sometimes we struggle with that. And we got to sit there and you kind of have to coach them. And it takes a few takes. But how do you approach? I know how I approach it. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. How do you approach interviewing people with a background that we have in news to get them to tell you a compelling story in order to be able to use that content in their product?
It's all about the interview techniques, and I think I take it for granted because I've been doing it for 30 years. Wow, I said it.
You're
Yeah,
an
it's
old
been
fart.
it's been a long time. So I think it's just the way you ask the questions and make sure that they don't have the opportunity to say yes or no. It forces them to think. It forces them, and sometimes they'll say something, and it's like, okay, that was good. Give me a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more about that experience when you walked into the school the first time. You got to paint the picture for them in their head
Yeah.
so they can kind of spiel it back. So you're interviewing a kid about their first day in school. So tell me, how did you feel when you walked into school that first day and you saw the teacher and you saw your desk and it had your name? Tell me about it.
Yeah.
What did you feel?
But I know
And
we've been
now,
there. We've been there. The
and
funny thing is,
sometimes you
sometimes
don't
we've been
get
there,
it.
and you're like, dude, you're not gonna get anything better. And I'm one that maybe I spent too much time in that interview because I know what I want the person to say and how
Yes.
to say it.
Yes.
And you're like
Yes. Yes.
struggling and
Yes.
struggling. You ask
Yes.
him again, and you're
Yes.
like, dude, it's not gonna get any better.
Yeah,
And
sometimes some people have the gift of being
yeah,
able to speak long sentences and give you
yeah.
good content and talk in sound bites, like we say.
But I think
Uh,
it is a gift to, and although we've always a lot of times in our back when we were behind the camera, but
but
I
we were,
think we have morphed into also in front of the camera, not necessarily on camera talent, but as the journalist trying to get that person to tell you that compelling story. Because if they can tell you the same line three different ways, and it
mhm,
changes completely the story.
yeah,
And
yeah,
sometimes to tell that story effectively, you gotta get that emotion out of the person.
100%, 100%. And I mean, I think we're similar in the way when we approach a project, we kind of script it out, including what we want the people to say. So if we're gonna talk to a teacher, or we're going to talk to a business owner about when they came here from their native country, we kind of already have in mind what they're going to say. They came here, they had nothing in their pocket, whatever, and so on and so forth. And we already kind of scripted it out. So now we're just going to feed them the questions that are going to provoke that emotion and provoke those interview answers that we need to tell the story and to put
Sometimes
it
you
all
gotta feed them a
together.
lot more.
And sometimes we have to feed them a lot more, and I don't feel bad about it because at the end of the day, these are
Yeah.
content for commercials. But I like it to feel natural, and I like to not feel scripted as much as possible. So maybe they gave us the answer, but they gave it to us in 3 pieces, and we want them to give it in one statement, and we may feed it back to them and say, okay, say this all in one complete thought. And they'll do it, and sometimes they won't, and you'll keep going, 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 going. I'm like, we're not gonna get it. They're not gonna give it to us. So we gotta,
Yeah, sometimes
we
you have to
gotta,
cut your losses,
we
and
gotta
then hopefully you get somebody else,
that
you
that
know,
may that may tie
ties
it
it all,
together.
ties it all. With sometimes the challenging part, because a lot of the times we have a script, we have a concept, but it's just a concept. It's an outline, and sometimes you need to get all the pieces together, all the interviews together, and then it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You start getting all those interviews, and you're like, oh, this goes with this, and then oh, this one goes with this, but then oh, this one goes in the middle, and this ties all three together, and then it's amazing when you finally see it together. You're like, wow,
It looks like it was a
it
scripted
looks like we knew.
movie. Yeah,
It looks like,
and that's
sometimes that happens, and sometimes it doesn't.
right. And sometimes you go in with a certain idea, and you end up with a totally different idea that's actually better than
But
the
yeah,
original.
100%.
And that's the beauty of non-scripted, somewhat scripted, more like outlined concepts, and that's usually longer format. That's not a 30-second spot. A 30-second spot, you need to get exactly what
Yeah,
you
you gotta get to
went
the
in
point.
for. So I think the approach when you're trying to tell a story, and it's going to be a little longer format, maybe a YouTube or video, or just like a profile of your company, is don't feel don't feel like you need to say it in 30 seconds. Like, tell the story, engage the person that's watching, make them feel part of your story, because that's what's gonna, the human interest story is what people care about. So in this podcast, we're gonna feature experts in all areas of communications, from content strategy to PR to marketing,
AI.
branding, all sorts of people that are specialists in content. And hopefully we're going to learn, and we're going to share this information with our viewers. Hopefully we'll have more than just us
Yes,
watching.
exactly. And our lives, yeah.
but-
yeah, and for people that are interested in creating content and storytelling, I mean, they can learn some stuff from us and from some of the guests that we're gonna have. So the idea is to help people that want to be storytellers, that want to create content, and maybe they don't know one part or another part of how to put it all together, and hopefully this will give them some information about that.
Yeah, and if anybody has any ideas for guests that we should have, I mean, we're open to it. Send us a message, because we're open to learn. I mean, there's so much changing on a daily basis. I mean, especially with AI and just the way, and platforms, and the way different platforms perceive different content. That, I mean, there's a lot to learn. Even
Yeah,
though we
from
know
here
a
to
lot,
episode
but
5, we'll probably know a lot more
Yes.
about that topic. So that's it for our first episode. I'm Armando Pico from A Pico Media.
And I'm Carlos Barkin from Barkin Creative Group. We'll see you next time on Storytellers.